Board recording. Cool. Awesome. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining the women's group today for this interview. Super stoked to have you. To give everybody a little bit of an intro about you, if you could dive into your background, like as a fitness coach, what kind of got you into what you're doing now, and then kind of what your business looks like now in terms of how you help people, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so fun
Yeah.
to be here. It's cool to be your friend and also hear about all the amazing things that you're doing in your business. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But yeah, so a little bit about me. Just kind of growing up, I was an athlete, basketball player, just always loved sports and fitness, and did some things right after college that were in social work. And then I decided I really wanted to get back into fitness and the things that I wanted that were really near and dear to my heart. I wanted to be able to help people, but in a different type of way than the type of social work that I was doing. And so that's when I went and got my certifications, all that kind of stuff. But even before that, just like a quick breeze through long stories. In college, I developed an eating disorder. So I got very sick very quickly. And so through that process, I basically had to quit my basketball team. I was a college athlete and go into treatment, and it was really scary. But through that process, I was able to go to treatment and then continue healing thereafter. And that really was what sparked me wanting to get back into the fitness industry, where I needed to go through this real important healing process and then be able to show people in a different type of, way where you can be fit, you can work towards your goals, but in a healthy and balanced way, where nutrition doesn't need to rule your life and where fitness doesn't need to rule your life. And because there's so many people, there are a lot of people who suffer from eating disorders, but there are also, I would say, the vast majority of people in the world have experienced some sort of body image issues or a complicated relationship with food or exercise. And so like the space that I love to live in now is teaching people how to create that balance for themselves, because that can look different for everybody, and taking away the fears and empowering people to create that life. So so business wise, my husband and I started an online fitness company called HitBurn. We just merged with a company called HitMax. And then my personal brand is the Daily Kelsey, where I talk about relationship with food and exercise.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That was actually the profile I just shared in group, the Daily Kelsey.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things, one, I appreciate you being so open with your story, but one of the things that the group was already interested in, what I think will be really valuable for us to talk about, one thing you said in particular, how like a balanced approach to diet and exercise looks a little different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, because you see so many blanket statements of like, this is what you have to eat, this is what you can't eat. These are good workouts, these are bad workouts, when in reality, all of our like correct approaches kind of live somewhere in the middle of that, in terms of here are the foods you should mostly eat, maybe these are the ones to stay away from, and kind of a little bit of everything. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's where a lot of the complicated, mindset aspects come into play, because people are told this is the only way to do it. You're either right or you're wrong. And that can feel frustrating when it's like, I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not getting the results that I want. And so like giving yourself a little bit of a break, knowing like there are a lot of different ways that you could get there, but what's the best way for you as an individual? And that can take some practice to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. I like that, the idea of practice. So first thing I wanted to like really dive into today was intuitive eating, because your point about practice, in this group, we go over calorie counting a lot. And the way I like to think about it and the way I talk about it in the group, as it's kind of like training wheels, just to get familiar with proper portions, to like get your body composition in a spot that you feel good with. But long term, I encourage people to move toward intuitive eating, like over the lifetime, because that is like a much more sustainable approach. I don't want people attached to my fitness pal all the time, but not everybody's totally sure with, one, what intuitive eating even looks like, because you hear so many different things about what it is. Like, listen to your body and you don't know, and then how to make it smooth transition. So if you could kind of go over intuitive eating, kind of the way that you coach nutrition, and then how to make that transition out of counting calories long term, would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. And intuitive eating, it sounds like, if you were to just like think about what it is, a lot of people are like, oh, it's this flowery, ambiguous, just like eat whatever you want, whenever you want type thing. And, of course there are some people who practice that way, and to each their own. But the way that I really like to teach and practice intuitive eating is more of a mindful aspect where you're informed about certain foods and how they fuel your body, but you also honor your body in the sense of understanding these are the things that I experience when I'm hungry, or these are the cues that I feel when I'm starting to experience fullness. So it's an element of you can be informed about foods, but also paying more attention to hunger and fullness. And then also just like honoring your body and knowing that like certain foods aren't good and they're not bad. And that's like having certain like labels around food is something that a lot of people struggle with. And when you have certain labels around food, it can kind of mess with people mentally. And so if you take away some of these types of things, it can just make food what it is. And that's, it's nutrients, but it's also important to understand that food is very dynamic in the sense where it's nutrients, but it's also a part of your culture. It can also be really fun and you can enjoy it just because it tastes good, and there's all these elements that make food, just a wonderful and very big thing. So intuitive eating, basically the way that I teach it is being informed about foods, but also honoring hunger and fullness cues, and then making choices to help you be able to feel fueled well, to be able to perform well, and then make gentle adjustments to get whatever results that you want.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah, I like the idea of not every food has to like satisfy every nutritional requirement. So some can be like, this is very nutrient heavy. Some could be, this is just like a one-in-a-kind donut. I'm never going to get another place again. This could be for you like, oh, this is a coffee that you and Dennis haven't tried before. Like not every meal has to check every single box, but obviously that can be a little complex if somebody's new to intuitive eating. So would you be able to go over kind of, I don't want to say your average day of eating, but let's say like kind of your thought process throughout the day of like how to decide, okay, like I'm not calorie counting. I don't have like a food list. I'm just going to operate based on intuitive eating, kind of what that looks like throughout the day. And like, how do you decide, am I actually hungry? Is this just a passing craving? Like, do I eat now? Do I wait a little bit? So kind of how you operate day to day.
Yeah. So in my experience, there are really kind of two phases of intuitive eating. And if you look on like Instagram, where there are a lot of people practicing intuitive eating, and it's just like, you can just eat donuts like every second of every day and like, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That would be what I would call like a first phase of intuitive eating that a lot of people who are in recovery are going through. And part of that is getting over the idea of feared foods and understanding that food choice doesn't determine your morality. Like if you eat a donut, you're not a bad person. And a lot of people go through elements of that where it's like this super interconnected, like I eat this, I'm bad type thing. And so the first phase really is like just creating a better relationship with food and part of that for especially people in recovery is having no food off limits, because there are just so many rules around food. And so with that, there's that piece. And then the second one is where you can make gentle adjustments to really be able to listen to those hunger cues and how foods make you feel. And so when it comes to like listening to those things, like what does that mean? And a lot of people, like, let's start with like hunger. So if you're listening to hunger, what does that mean? A lot of people think like it's just like a rumbling in the stomach, and that can be, but then a lot of people are like, I don't really experience that throughout the day. Like, I'm not exactly sure what that feels like. But think about like, do you get headaches throughout the day? Like, do you feel lethargic at, 2 p.m. every day? Like, what are these other things that your body is doing regularly that you could be listening to that could be an element of hunger? And maybe it's like you're needing different types of foods because maybe you just ate like a bowl of cereal for breakfast and then you're hungry again and you're like, what's going on? Well, maybe you just didn't get the proper nutrients that your body needed at that point. So just starting to pay attention to these different elements is really, really important. So your question, a typical day of eating. When I go about my day now, there are elements of that I think about, okay, what nutrients could my body be needing today based on the activities that I have, based on my schedule? And then I think about like, okay, when am I hungry first? And so a lot of people are like, I have to eat. It's mealtime. This is the time that I eat, and that's when, I have to get in my calories. but a part of intuitive eating is listening to hunger and fullness cues. So I don't have my breakfast like right away because I'm not hungry right when I wake up. So it varies when I have my first meal, usually 1 to 3 hours after I wake up, depending on a lot of things. So if I had a huge dinner the night before, I'm probably not going to be as hungry in the morning. So I'll wait a little bit longer to have my first meal. So that kind of helps determine my meal time. And usually I'll start with some protein and some healthy fats like eggs and avocado because it tastes really good. I really love that breakfast. And B, I know that protein is really satiating and healthy fats are really, really good for your brain, for focus, for clarity. And so when I'm working throughout the day, I know that those are things that will help me perform better. They'll help me feel good. And they also taste good. So it's like kind of checking like these boxes of what's going to help me be fueled well, but also what do I enjoy eating? So those are elements of it. And then another piece is like amounts of food. And I know that you mentioned like transitioning from calorie counting into like not tracking. So this is something that is like I love your idea of training wheels, like being informed about foods. And then like a lot of people, when they are trying to transition out, they get really, really caught in the weeds. So when you're trying to transition, it's like, okay, think about it more from a holistic perspective of like, it doesn't matter if I am 10 calories over on, X, Y, or Z, because there's lots of different things, that go into that. But think about like, okay, if I'm having eggs and avocado in the morning, how many eggs are going to satisfy the hunger that I'm feeling? Usually for me, it's like 2 or 3 eggs, usually 3. And then like a dollop of like guacamole or something. And then I sit there for a little bit. I'm like, okay, am I still hungry right now? Do I feel like hunger pangs still? If I do, I'll typically go make a couple rice cakes with nut butter, So it just varies depending on the day. And like understanding that flexibility is okay is really important for me.
Sure. No, I love that. Awesome. So I want to kind of recap intuitive eating because obviously we got a lot of that there. So intuitive eating as a whole being an approach where you're largely listening to your body, paying attention to cues, not just like, am I losing fat or not, but how is my energy? How is my gym performance? Like, am I getting headaches? Do I feel dehydrated? Kind of paying attention to those cues. And you said you could kind of break it up into 2 phases. So phase 1 is getting more comfortable with no off limits foods and saying like, okay, there's no bad food. This is okay for me to eat. And then phase 2, you said gentle adjustments, right?
Gentle adjustments, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be extreme, just gentle adjustments. Okay, maybe this eggs and avocado fills me up. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'll have eggs, avocado, and like an apple on top of that. So kind of concurring based on how you feel. And I think one of the important things for people to keep in mind when using this approach is and we go over this a lot in the group, is just being super, super patient. So like you're not supposed to figure out intuitive eating in a week or a month or even a year. Like, let me ask you, how long did it actually take for you to feel mostly comfortable with intuitive eating and not tracking everything? Like, how long was that journey for you?
Yeah. Well, the recovery process was like, for a full year, I was like having to just go all in. And if for me, I had a lot of feared foods. And so that first phase was really important for me, where like, if I felt a pang of anxiety over the idea of eating pizza, I knew at that moment, I have to eat that pizza. It's just that's what's going to help, like fear factor, right? Like being able to get over that. I ate that pizza. I'm still alive and well. I'm still a great human being. That's awesome. So after like getting over the feared foods and stuff, I really started to be able to get into a flow of understanding how the different foods made me feel. And that's, that's something that a lot of people like want to happen right away. But like you were saying, it can take some time. So it can take a month to be like, okay, I'm starting to get in the flow, but it could take, like up to a year. But the patience is key and it's crucial. And it gets so much easier the more you practice. And a huge piece of that is just having grace with yourself. Like so important. And understanding you're not screwing it up. There's not like a perfect way to do it. So just having that grace with yourself is super important.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. Like you quite literally can't screw it up. One of the things my buddy Jordan Syed, I don't know if you know him, but one of the things Jordan talks about is that the only way to fail in any of this stuff is by quitting. Like that is quite literally the only way. It doesn't matter if you binged. It doesn't matter if you like didn't miss all your workout. Like it does not matter. And it's the only way that you can fail if you're playing the long game is by quitting. That's it.
Yeah.
When it comes to intuitive eating, I just want to make sure that everybody gets really comfortable before even toying with it, that this is going to take a while, and that's okay, because unless you plan on only caring about your health for the next 12 months, it's okay to take, say, even the next 18 months to like dial this in a little bit, because, let's assume that somebody lives into their 80s and 90s, hopefully like a year and a half to like learn how to be nice to yourself and learn how to fuel your That's nothing. That's actually,
because here's the thing, like Sam, the amazing hard work that you've done with all of the people in your group, when they are finished with the phase of the training meals, they know how much chicken, they know how much will help them feel full. They know that, like, okay, if I eat this much, I'm maybe a little bit more hungry after these meals. They know how the different foods fuel their body. And like, that's the hard work that you've been putting in. And so it's like, I think that just taking some of the pressure off, they're thinking like that the tracking is what's going to make or break the results. Like, no, they already know, like they just have confidence in that.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that that's a big piece, is just like people not having that trust with their bodies and having to rely on calculations. And it's like, calculations can be super helpful to inform at first, but it's like after a while, it's like, dude, I got this. Like, I know what it is. I know like the general portion sizes that are right for my body. And so I don't need to get down to the exact gram, because I can have a little bit of flexibility and still be seeing amazing results.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to add one more action step that I just thought of to that point, and that is not waiting until you're done calorie counting to start paying attention to other metrics besides just calories. So we actually have a member in this current group who'd reached out to me before because like she wasn't feeling great. She was like feeling a little bloated, and she couldn't figure out why, but she started keeping a food diary of how she felt, not just like the calories and stuff, but how she
That's
felt.
amazing.
I was able to find a correlation. Okay, when I have dairy, I usually don't feel great. So like starting to pay attention to those things prior to being like, okay, today I'm done calorie counting, tomorrow I'm intuitive eating. Like, what do I do? Like starting to pay attention prior to that point, I think would be super helpful. I think that's what I wanted to cover for intuitive eating.
Amazing.
So next thing that I wanted to go over with you, and I think will be super helpful for everybody in the group, is how to get over a perfectionist mindset, kind of like the all or nothing approach. Because I know myself, like my members, like myself, I think you struggled with before, where you have 10 cookies, or you have one cookie, so you're like, screw it, I'm gonna have 10. I screw it up anyway. Or I missed Monday and Tuesday's workout, I'm just gonna start fresh next week because I screwed up this week anyway. Having perfection be the standard for consistency. Can you talk a little bit about how to, I don't say get over, because it's like a constant journey, but get through, get past, work on that, I screwed up a little, so I'm just gonna screw up a lot of it, how to get past that?
Yeah. I know that I have definitely struggled with that throughout my life. And yeah, there are a couple different things that you can do, but overall it's like just having some sort of like, what do you even call it? Like accountability almost when you have those feelings will help kind of bring you back to reality. Like, and maybe that's like some sort of mantra or some like a person that you can text or call or something, where it's like, I'm feeling this. How do I move forward to be able to not like throw in the towel? Because like for me, it's like if I didn't have everything exactly the way I had planned it, it was like, I am a terrible person. Like, why am I even trying? But like, for example, when it comes to like nutrition and workouts, like our bodies are dynamic. They are smart. They're not going to be ruined from one meal. They're not going to be ruined from one missed workout. And so like understanding that the body is so sophisticated and that we can't screw it up that easily is really helpful in the process. So my thing is always consistency over time, progress over perfection. And those are just little things that like I always would have running through my head every time I got a pang of anxiety around like my perfectionist tendencies. Like it's okay to like cut some slack. So having like a couple of those things is really, really helpful.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of accountability. I feel like that helps a lot, because I've even had moments where because I've struggled with binge eating, where I will be like feeling it, like, like things are starting to unravel.
Yeah.
And like FaceTiming a friend, all of a sudden I
Yeah.
can take a breather and like come to my senses a little bit and think. So I love the idea of a little accountability there. Now, at this point, as far along as you are, do you ever feel yourself slipping back into those like perfectionist habits? Do you ever feel like you get back into that like super strict approach? And if and when that happens, how do you like reel yourself back in to like a more balanced approach?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I am the same person, but I'm a very different person. So it's like I'm still me, I'm still Kelsey, but like I understand these things about myself. And so I've put in parameters to like kind of checks and balances, where it's like if like let's say I've been, really consistent with eating really healthy foods and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, gosh, I really feel like a breakfast burrito. But then in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but like, do you really need it? That kind of stuff. And I catch that moment. I'm like, dude, what's going on? So it's like those moments where it's like just being aware of thought patterns and not letting thought patterns feel like this hard truth, and just being like, okay, I can adjust my thoughts on demand. Because a lot of people get like really frustrated where it's like, I keep having these thoughts, and it's like, well, you can catch them and then redirect them. And so that's been a huge thing for me, is being able to catch thoughts in the moment, think about, okay, what is the truth about this situation? Is it that I shouldn't have a burrito, or is it that life is okay, like if I have a burrito or not, And so being able to think about those moments with a little bit more flexibility has been really helpful for me.
Oh, I love that. It's almost the idea, back to our point with intuitive eating, about patience, but on a micro level, and like being patient in the moment. So if you're feeling a certain way, be like, hold on, take a breather. Like, let me assess this. Let me sit with this thought for a minute.
Yeah.
See if you can redirect it a little, or at least question it. So even if you have an initial thought, maybe I shouldn't have a breakfast burrito today. That's not necessarily bad. Maybe nutrition's been a little too flexible recently, and maybe you should have the regular eggs and avocado, but actually giving a little thought before you go in one direction or the other, and like catching yourself in thought. So I like that, because I feel
that
like
awareness. And even like anxiety, right? Like if you're feeling stressed or anxious, like taking a second and be like, why am I stressing? Like, what is this? Because I mean, sometimes, sure, there's like an event or something that you're stressing about, but sometimes it's just like all these things in life happening all at once. And so just creating awareness around that is really important, and being able to sit with those feelings for a second, decipher, okay, what am I feeling anxious about, allows you to make more informed decisions about what's best for you next.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. No, I love that. I think that's everything I want to cover for the kind of all or nothing approach, unless there's anything else you want to add, or you feel like we kind of tackled every point.
No, I mean, just giving yourself grace is something that is really, really important, and that takes practice on practice. So, but that's just something that's really important overall.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that will be universal, like the giving yourself grace and then being patient just makes the entire journey, because it is a lifelong journey, ideally, so much less stressful when like things don't go super well. Maybe you do have a perfectionist moment and go off the rails for a few days. You're like, wait a minute, unless I plan on quitting next week, this isn't the end of the world, because I can keep going, and that's fine. So last topic I wanted to dive into was creative ways to stay fit and active, because we have a lot of women in the group who either haven't strength trained in a while, or even they might be new to strength training, and all of a sudden they have this confidence, they have these new physical capabilities, quality of life is just better, where like, I'm stronger now, I feel athletic, I feel fit, I feel confident. Like, what can I do with it? So for you, outside of the gym, what are some things that you do to stay moving, stay healthy, and just stay fit, not working out?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. And I just like love that that's a question that people are asking. They're like, I feel so good and I feel so confident and strong that I want to do like fun activities. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. But for me personally, gosh, I don't know. I take my dog on a lot of walks. I have a mini weenie dog. So just, going on walks is really, you know, Lily. Hikes are great. I love just going on, chill hikes. I'm not like a rock climber necessarily, but
we did that once. We did
that once, dude, and I was like, if I fall off this cliff, it's over.
That got a little intense for a minute. We saw a scorpion, and then we're hanging on a ledge, and I'm like, wow, this is an intense hike.
Yes, it was very intense. I love playing frisbee, pickleball. If anyone has ever played pickleball, it's like, where
somebody's in the middle and you Run it like,
No. Oh my gosh.
oh, I'm thinking
No.
of pickle. I don't know if you've ever played
Pickleball.
pickle.
Yes, it's amazing. So it's like a mix between tennis and ping pong.
Okay.
And people of all ages play it. Like when I first learned how to play, it was with a buddy from college and his dad, who was in this retirement facility. And my partner was Jessie. She was 89 years old. She had a bedazzled baseball cap. She was like the cutest person in the world. And she just sat there like, yeah, it was amazing. So that's a really fun one too.
That was new to me. Now let me ask you this. How do you find that balance of still prioritizing your workouts, but also doing like all these non-gym activities and not ever being extreme, where you feel like you're
Yeah.
active in the gym and you're like never giving yourself a break outside, but also not completely putting workouts to the back burner? Because obviously strength training is important. Do you ever find that you struggle with that balance and you go more toward one side or the other? Do you have any advice for like finding that balance of gym versus non-gym activity?
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, it's hard because there are some people who struggle to get motivated, and then there are some people who struggle to reduce motivation and are just exercising all the time. So, I mean, first of all, it's like, what are your goals, and like, what type of workout plan is going to help you be able to reach your goals? And then from there, it's like, okay, what is like this range of flexibility that I can create for myself to remain consistent, but also, continue to improve, also allow myself to get rest. So I think that's different for every individual person based on what their goals are. But it's like, have this general outline and then kind of have like cast a net for like, okay, what does consistency look like to be able to feel like I'm still making progress? One missed workout is fine. Two missed workouts, I might be like needing to get it going again, So just like understanding like, what are these like patterns for consistency for me?
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I like the idea again of a spectrum here. You mentioned that for some people, like depending on their goals, being highly active outside of the gym may make more sense if they enjoy hiking. Or I know there's some tennis players and some runners in this group, and like they want to do more stuff. So I usually will emphasize like a non-negotiable minimum standard for strength training at like 2, maybe 3 days per week, just to like maintain quality of life and prevent injury. And then long-term, finding where you fall on that spectrum. If you really like lifting, maybe 4 days a week is fine for that. If you'd rather do non-gym activity, you can go on the other side of the spectrum, do like 2 days, and then go the other stuff outside.
I love that.
That's
good.
I mean, this is pretty much everything I had for us today, Kelsey. We went over intuitive eating a little bit, the all or nothing stuff, and then staying active outside of the gym. So what I'm going to do for the members in the group is link out to the website, social media, all that stuff. So if they want to follow, which I'm sure everybody will, follow the stuff, see the intuitive eating, learn more about like other more flexible, sustainable approaches to diet and exercise, I'll send them your way after.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I loved this conversation, and you're just a cool guy. So it was fun hanging out.
I really appreciate you being on here. Thanks, Kelsey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's see. Stop video. Or stop